Howdy, everybody. It's your boy TK. Welcome to Rot Lot Media, and I'm so happy to be able to finally make this video. I recently got done with a narrative game that my local gaming store is holding, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. My opponent was awesome. Uh, Absolutely can't wait to tell you how badly I got dumpstered. It just did not go my way, but that's half the fun about this game. Just to let you guys know, we are playing Fallout Factions. Don't mind the little interrupts like that. Um, but yeah, we're playing Fallout Factions. This is a skirmish game. It is a PvP, or player versus player, where you will build your own raider gang and try to take over and gain control of areas, earning caps, parts, and different things to help build up your team. For this session, um, my team that I brought the Automatrons. These are a mechanical focused factions. If you've played Fallout before, you know the Protectrons, the Eyebot, the Assaultrons, like all sorts of robot shenanigans. And they're such a fun, they are really unique in their ways that they upgrade, that they play, and I find them a lot of fun. My opponent, oh, before I continue, my team is called the Circuit Breakers. Really nice, automatron based name, and I love it. And for my opponent, he was playing his crew that he calls Bertha's Bonkers. They are a super mutant group. There's a couple different factions within the super mutants that you can play in this tabletop game. And I don't know which one specifically, if he's like East Coast, West Coast. I know he's not the Nightkins, so at least I can tell you that for sure. Unfortunately, I obviously don't own Super Mutants, and because the video footage that I had was, subpar for you guys, the best way to describe it was, since I'm still getting used to recording and trying to set up camera angles, when I had the camera pointed and everything, it was from this direction onwards. Like, it was just looking at like our left side. And the funny thing about it was, after like the first couple minutes, everything's occurring right here in the middle, or like this side over here on the right. And so just a lot of the footage just didn't show the units interacting or seeing anything that was occurring. And, this was a fun game. And so, in replacement of the Super Mutants, I'm just going to be using one of my own groups. This is the pack, but, just imagine them as hulking Super Mutants. Yeah. And so, I'm going to put my little mechanist back over here. I can give you a general layout and describe to you what's happening at a given time. And so, yeah, we are playing a narrative based game where we are just trying to loot, increase our crew's reputation, and just cause as much havoc as possible. So, for this game, um, my opponent had a reputation score of 279. That just describes to you how reputable his team is. Upgrades, buying units, and things like that will increase your reputation. So he had 279 to my 259. The nice thing about this game is whenever you're playing an opponent, let's say you're just a dude working your 9 to 5s, 5 days a week. You only have like one game that you can play a week. Um, you can't compete against people that play this game, every day. I don't think a lot of us do that at our local gaming store, but those people, they're the ones that have more free time. Nothing wrong with either situation, but if you are fighting a team that is a higher reputation, you get a difference in caps. That's kind of like, by reputation, it's like your caps. It's how much you're worth. And so I got 20 extra caps, for temporary use. So we can kind of match up. This way it's not 500 versus 250. Obviously, one of these is vastly stronger than the other. Um, I did end up buying a temporary legendary unit. This is just somebody in the wasteland, very well known. I'm just not going to bring them up because they weren't really at all talked about, or we really didn't even interact with the dog too much, and that was just kind of how the thing was. Sorry about that. Let me just get a little bit more over here. But yeah, this is the terrain I was painting up, from the hobby talk and things like that. And so this is the map layout that we had. I just wanted to give you guys just a little bit of insight. The outside areas over here and over here on the left and right side, the windows are open and shootable. The ones here in the middle, they are not. So you can't run through them and you can't shoot through them or fight through them, which, kind of made a difference in this game. Me and my opponent, we were trying to figure out, because I'm a good sport, I don't really care about these things. He was worried that I was just going to shoot him off the board, and because there's not too many walls to just protect you from just being shot. And so, I just want to make it a little bit more fair, a little bit more fun. That's what this game's all about. It's just having a little bit of whimsy and just enjoying yourself. And so, yeah, we got set up. We have our units. And I'll go over the mission that we rolled for. So, because I had the lower reputation, I got to roll to see which location and which mission we were going to fight with. So I rolled for enemy territory. This is where I will choose to fight at his location, and I could get a selection of missions, and I chose the scenario 2, which is kidnap. So I'm playing as the attacker, he's playing as the defender. The TLDR of this, you can easily read it, find it for yourself on the Modiphius website, or wherever you can get yours. As the attacker, I will have the initiative. And the way the scenario works is the attacker is trying to take your opponent's champions, kill them, and when you kill them, they drop a token. And with the token, you will try to, we got a token right here. With this token, you will then take it and try to get back into your setup area. And if I can do that with his champion, then that'll be one of my win conditions. Pretty much, I'm trying to kill his champions. He's trying to not let them die. His team has 2 champions. And because this is a kidnap scenario, I have ambushed him at his area. And his location of choice is the combat zone. So I'm in his territory. I'm trying to ambush him. I'm trying to attack him and kidnap his champions. So with this scenario, he had to choose 1 champion and up to 3 health worth of models. So if he chooses 1 health models, he can choose up to 3 of them, a 2 health, a 1 health, or 1 3 health. Just to make the math work in that way. And they will be placed in the center of the board and have like a 2-inch bubble of deployment. I'm just going to move this right quick so you can kind of see what my opponent had done. He had placed 1 grunt here. He placed his champion and 1 more grunt right over here. Oh, and he had a 3rd one. Let me just move that one over here. So he had 3 guys right here, his champion, 2 grunts, and a grunt. And the nice thing about his setup was if I can just get to him, then it should be easy peasy. Now, this is a mistake that we made while playing, is we should have talked about terrain before we rolled for that mission. And because we rolled and had the mission set up, had the terrain set up, he realized that with this mission, if this middle section had been, easy to run through, shoot through, and fight through, this probably would have been a different match. But because, like I said, I like to have fun. I like things to be fair. I like my opponent to not have to suffer. I agreed that this was just going to be closed off, so you can run around, the back side, front side, come up this little ramp. We got a ramp right here, ramp across the terrain. And, I think it did make a difference, but at the end of the day, it's whatever. I just wanted to let you guys know, why didn't I just go over there and kick his face in? So, to continue with the match, I have 7 units to his 10. Most of his guys have 1 health, besides his champions, they have about 2 or 3. Same with my guys, most of them have 2 health, because we're just machines, we're a little bit tankier, we're just not as intelligent. And so yeah, we also had to set up these rummage tokens. We have 1 over here, 1 right here, 1 right here, 1 right here, 1 right here. They have to be outside the deployment zone. So he has an 18-inch deployment to my 15. And he had to set up his 4 guys here in the middle, and then he has his other 6 over here. 3 of them technically are hounds, and the other 7 are super mutants. I'm super excited for him because he told me that he's saving up to get a suicider, which is effectively a super mutant with a mini nuke. And his entire job is to run into a big group of units and blow up. And anything within like a 2 or 3 inch bubble will just take an immediate 3 harm. And, you know, obviously I'll try to describe to you guys what some of the mechanics are in the game. You know, maybe I should make a video explaining the mechanics of the game. But pretty much, you're trying to harm a unit, and once they meet a certain threshold, they will take an injury. Pretty much their health. And the nice thing is about the super mutants is pretty much every unit in the game, bar an exception, a couple, like the super mutants, you have a harm limit of 3. So if you take 3 harm and you take a 4th harm, you instead receive 1 injury and you keep that harm. So it just makes it easier to shoot you. The more harm you have, the more dice you add. And, you know, there's all sorts of factors when it comes to rolling dice and different things like that. You know, we play on a D10 system, things in that nature. And yeah, I messed up this game really badly because I was so focused on trying to kill his champion that I didn't really play the rest of the match too well. Yeah, I'll try to make this little token a little bit easier so you guys can see it. And what I should have been doing was, because I get to go first, you know, normally in this game, unlike in like Kill Team, where it's you go, I go, like 1 unit at a time, in this game, because of your special stat, you can have like charisma, and my mechanist, I made sure everybody at the beginning of the game, oh, here, I probably should state this. We got deployed. Right now, I have my Eyebot, I have my Protectron, I have another Protectron, my Assaultron, and right below here, I have my Mechanist, Robo-Brain, and my Mr. Handy right there. And they're technically like up here on this ramp, at least the Robo-Brain and the Mechanist. If I put them up there, they'll slide down, just so you guys will have that information. And yeah, so I had the initiative. My goal is to kill his champions, take the token, and run away. My opponent, they're just trying to survive. What makes this game a little bit interesting is you go, well, TK, if his champion has to live, why doesn't he just move his champion that's right under here all the way back into his deployment zone? If he does that, he doesn't get points. It's the most obvious thing to do. Run away. So he has to stay outside this 18-inch bubble at the end of the game, or else he gets no points. And so it kind of plays that little balance game of he has to play it safe without playing, you know, kind of like a chicken. But the super mutants, they're not chickens. So we will go and, I'll talk about the game. We are going to be doing Battle Round 1. I love these little tokens that they got. Pretty much whenever you finish a round, you'll just gluck, drink it up, and then you'll move on. So in a scenario, there are 4 rounds. The attacker has the initiative, and I decide what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate my Mechanist, and I'm going to make everybody run. So with like my 8-inch, since this game runs on an 8-inch system, got my little measurement tool right here. Everybody's going to move 8 inches, and something that I messed up with, because, we're still learning the rules, we're still learning how to interact with things. In other kind of skirmish games, if a unit is trying to run past an enemy, if their bubble, their 1 inch bubble, is like in the way, you technically can't run past them. But this game works differently where you can run past them. You can't run through them, but you can run like past them. And as long as you don't end within an inch, you can do that. And my issue in the game was, his super mutant, his base was a little bit pushed up and he was making it really difficult to run around. And I thought to myself, I'm like, crap, I'm just screwed. Like, he's perfectly body blocked me because I can't get through the windows. If they had remained open like I originally intended, this game, like I said, I think the outcome might have changed ever so slightly. We only ever got to play one round. So in this one round, we started, played, and then ended it. Mostly because we had to set up, we had to talk about our armies. It was hard to get a table just because, it was just a busy day for the local gaming store. So I'll go through with the rest of my moves. So I moved the iBot over here. I have my Protectron. Enjoy that beautiful paint. He is a police unit Protectron. He has a little shock baton, and his name is AH-Fender. Fender. And what I did was I had ran him up, sat him onto the objective into melee range of one of his super mutants. I did the same thing with my second Protectron. Not, at the time we realized that after the game that I could have ran past to go and, get to his champion. And, we're moving around doing things. Currently, I got my... Oh, that's right. He had one of his dudes up here. That's what it was. Sorry about that, guys. Trying to remember this on the fly. Didn't exactly write down all the notes that I needed. So he had a guy up here. My Assaultron, she has an additional 2 inches of movement. So she was able to run up 3, climb up 5, and then land right around here. So she could be in the melee range of my opponent. And unfortunately, that's also another thing I need to stop doing. Is I get too hyper aggressive because my Assaultron, her name is NACL and battery, assault and battery. She has this really cool eye laser where if she moves she can then shoot for free a 5-inch eye laser, something that they're very well known for in the Fallout universe. And what I should have done was I should have moved her up, shot him, and then her next activation later, charge into him, and then fight him later. Something like that. Because when you get into melee combat, you can't shoot out of it. And so, let me just move some things, move units to where I moved them by the by the first movement of what I did. So yeah. So I got my iBot over here. I have my Protectron right here. I have my second Protectron. This is Gilda. Just a normal Protectron. I have NACL and battery, assault and battery. I have the Mechanist, and I have Pinky. Pinky is my Robo Brain. I once again, I forgot where its Robo Brain was, panicked, went, okay, I'll just use a Protectron head, and just slapped it up there. I found the brain later, and just put it on a Mr. Handy. And so that's where the brain's at. And over here, I have my Mr. Handy. His name is Watts, because, he's giving you a little, what's up symbol. Gotta love the crafted base and everything. I got these proxied out, so I didn't have, like official Mr. Handies and everything, but yeah, that's what you get. I have managed to get it. Modifius, if you are watching, feel free to send me some merch. I will 100% sponsor anything you do. Okay, enough, plugging up and everything. So I got everybody moved, and in this game, something that you do is every unit has 2 actions that they can do in one turn. And in this game, you can do a group move. Pretty much you have one guy who tells everybody else around him to also move. So they will all get one fatigue. The orange is for one, purple is that you've used all of them. And so, everybody just got a fatigue. Everybody's doing their thing. Just getting everybody moved around, having some fun, just really getting up into their face. And that's where I'm having issues of just, I'm playing too aggressive with a team that really is trying to shoot down and wear out the enemy. Because unfortunately in this match, I have to go to him. He doesn't have to come to me. And so I get everybody, I get them all moving. And because this is the Mechanist activation, I can choose to just skip it and come back to him later, or I can continue. For this round, I went on ahead and I just made him fight his Super Mutant Grunt. And with the dice that I rolled, he only took like a single harm. And for Super Mutants, they need to take 4. And then once they take more than 4, they will take an injury. So he took 1 injury, and then of course we start going back with each other. He's moving units, I'm moving units, he's doing stuff, activating stuff. The thing that he decides to do is he activates his unit, and he does a rummage action, and with the rummage action, you roll 2 red dice. Your 2d10s. And whatever you roll, let's say this was the result, we had a 3 and a 2. The highest number is your caps, and the lower number is your parts. Parts are for upgrading weapons, and the caps are used to buy units and all other stuff. So he was rolling pretty good, and that was an issue I had in the game, was I wasn't rummaging enough. And something that we also had an issue with that we forgot about, if you are in melee, you cannot do a rummage action. You can either fight or run away. But with the way this game went, besides this token over here, everything he would have been able to rummage because I ran away. And when the team runs away, the enemy team has the rest of the turn to do whatever they want. So he pretty much technically would have spent the rest of his turn rummaging these tokens and getting caps and parts. I just want to let you guys know how that rule works. So I'll just tell you what was happening in that little misplay of ours. So we're going back and forth, we're fighting. I get my Soltron to fight his Super Mutant. I'm not rolling too hot. The way this game works is you will roll a certain amount of dice based on different conditions. Like her weapon, she has 4S. So it's 4 dice hitting on her strength. No problem. You swap them out for luck. She's got 2 luck, which are the blue dice. And then for every harm that is on a unit, so this one had 1, you'll add an extra dice. And so we're rolling, we're attacking each other. He has an endurance of 5 on pretty much every one of his models. And I'm like rolling like 1 success, 2 success. We've all had those games where you're just rolling like dog water. And so like my opponent, they're doing things where like my Mechanist went, then his Grunt went, then my Soltron went, and then it goes to him. And what he does is he has, let's pretend that these 3 are his hounds. He just has one of them just run over here and he rummages. No problem. He ran and then he rummaged. It's exhausted. Goes back to me. I get a Fender to attack his Grunt below. All I do is a single harm. Nothing wrong with that, but like not the best because with the police unit, his shock baton, it suppresses the enemy. So if I hit a unit that hasn't gone yet, or like they have 1 fatigue left, if I get a critical, it fatigues them for 1. So I'm trying to stun lock his unit, and I am just not rolling good at all. And then, so that was my offender's turn, goes back to him. He runs over here. Actually, no, before he does that, he uses the Grunt below to rummage
right here. So he gets more caps, he gets more parts. I think he's rolling like 5 pluses on pretty much every roll. So he's getting like 5 and 10 and then like 6 and 7. And he told me at the end of the game, like, this is his like most profitable game. And it was on me. It was our mistake. Obviously, that was another misplay of ours. He shouldn't have been able to do that, but the end of the game, it didn't matter. Goes back to me, and I get my Robo Brain. Actually, no, I get Gilda to fight his unit. And, she gets her 3 or 4 dice, gets 1 because I have an ally nearby me, and they have 1 harm. And all I end up doing is just, I do a second harm to them. you can kind of see how this game is going. And, it's pushing like hour and a half, 2 hours. And like, we only have like 2-3 hours to really play the game. We got there at 1 o'clock, but we had to leave by like 3:30. And so we're kind of trying to hurry up and try to get this over with. Gilda fights, doesn't do much, no problem. Goes back to my opponent, runs over here, does a rummage action, and kind of rinse and repeat. You can see where this is at the point where I realized, oh shit, I should have just been rummaging instead of fighting. Fighting can come later. You want to get caps, you want to get parts, because I'm trying to get another Mr. Handy, who I'm going to call Doc. And he's able to heal people. And what I'm going to do is, like, if a Fender is taking damage, I can run up to him. And normally you can't heal in combat, because that's a patch up action. But the medical Doc can just go, boop, I heal you for 2 or 3. So yeah, the game is just progressing. I'm noticing that I'm not doing too hot. Like, I'm almost out of actions. And then, like, my opponent's going, I'm going. I get my Robo Brain to take some pot shots. This was where his champion was. And since this unit is in the way, he can declare it as like a blocker. He's like, oh, instead of I'm taking it, I can make my grunt take it. End up shooting, not much happens. And I get 1 harm on him, because the way this game works, it has, when it comes to damage, if you roll less hits than their endurance, so say I had 3 hits to his 5 endurance, he takes 1 harm. If I get 5 hits and he has an endurance of 5, he will take an injury and a harm. So they're at 1 HP, they're dead. But if they have 2, they're now down to 1, and they have a harm. And if you roll, double of what their endurance is, so hypothetically, if I had 4 hits to their 2 endurance, you just kill that unit or incapacitate them in the game. And so, it's a little bit of an attrition war against super mutants. They're really tanky, really, decent melee, okay shooting, a lot of units, like my team's more expensive. Like my Mr. Handy is like 57 points to like one of his grunts, which is about, 35, about 30 points. And yeah, so we're just having this like back and forth of like nothing's really happening. Robo Brain didn't do too much, goes back to my opponent. He starts shooting at my Protectron over here, does 1 damage and a harm to him. It's absolutely brutal. Go over here to my iBot, I rummage, and I get 5 caps and 5 parts. And oh my god, I need 57 caps to receive, or to buy another unit, that medical Mr. Handy I was talking about. And after totaling the game, I'm at 56. And I'm like, son of a gun. But that's just how this game goes. It's a narrative game. You're not expected to beat it. Being a meta chaser just isn't my thing. And so, yeah, iBot goes, does his job. He's a little action monkey, 15 points, cheapest unit I have. Goes to my opponent. He starts shooting up into my Soltron. He deals a damage to it, which puts it at 1 HP. And he puts a harm on it. And, shot with that guy. No worries. Only 1 action. Goes back to me. Got Mr. Handy down here. I just shoot at the dog. Nothing really, or technically it's supposed to be a dog unit. It's the one of the hounds. Only did a harm. Nothing really up to do. And then my opponent, pretty much all of my guys are done. He still has 2 people down here and 3 other people over here to do stuff. And he just starts wailing into my Assaultron, just absolutely devastating it. And he goes, rolls, gets like 6 successes to my endurance of 5. So he rolled 6 to my 5. That deals an injury and a harm. And since my unit only has 2 health and it's already down to 1, it'll kill it. And this is where in this game you have your team's special ploy. And I have the one which is the flesh is weak, but steel is strong. Very Mechanicus code if you're a 40k player. And what that does is, when my unit would die, and it has to be a machine unit, which all of my units are machines except for the Mechanist. If they would die, instead, they heal an injury. So it goes from 2 damage back to 1, and it heals all the harm from that unit. So I'm still at 1 wound, and thankfully, I don't lose my champion, because my champions are my Mechanist, who's my leader, and my Assaultron. And so we're just going back and forth. He's shooting, offenders down really low. And it's getting pretty late at this point. My opponent, he's just been shooting at me. And we get to like the end of round 1 where he's shot, he's moved. And sorry about that. And at this point, going back and forth, like he still has like 1, 2, 3, 4 guys left. He's gotten all the points. He can start running away. My guys, this unit's about to die. This unit's about to die. Nothing's really happening. And at that point, instead of just calling it a draw and just taking the money and run, I looked at him and I said, "Hey man, you did such a fantastic job, and I want." And I'm trying not to lose any more of my units because this is 4 rounds. This is still battle round 1. And while we're talking and going over things, I just tell him, I was like, "Hey, like, you did such a good job. I'm just going to retreat with my army. Yes, I get penalized because you get 2 actions to do at the end of the game. And because I retreat, I only get 1. And I'm like, you know what? You won fair and square. Like, there was no way I was going to win this game unless I got really good rolls. And, I'm not a sore loser. I'm like, it happens. It's great. He was so swell. And so we just ended the game. He won because he had 2 champions alive. And because he had champions alive, going back to the win conditions of the scenario, we had the story outcomes right over here. And we go right down here to Defender. For each champion that was not kidnapped, the Defender may make a free recuperate story action. Pretty much, he can heal for free at the end of the game without rolling on an injury table. And if no champions are kidnapped, he gains an extra experience point. And experience points is how you upgrade units in the game. And, you get 1 for playing, 1 for losing a champion, 1 for making your opponent lose control in an area, failing a roll, and I think there's 1 more. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it didn't matter. Pretty much all we got was we showed up and played. None of us failed any rolls, which was funny, and obviously no champions died, which maybe I should have let her die just so I could get that experience, but, it's whatever. And so, yeah, we ended the game. He won, and with that as well, because we fought in his location, he also got the additional benefit for the story outcome of the crew that won gains 1 control in the area. So now he has 2 points of control in the combat zone. So this was a slam dunk for him and an absolute fun time. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this battle report. I hope to be able to do more of them. We have a game next week, and I'll try my best to get, to get actual footage to maybe save some of this,
shoddy workmanship over here. But I just want to give you guys an idea of what occurred, what happened, and to let you guys know how much fun Fallout Factions is. Right now we're playing Battle for Boston, and maybe one day I'll have those new units and terrain. All right, but I think with that, oh, one last thing, because we have to do end of the game stuff. At the end of the game, I have one story action, and some of the story actions you can do is you can like barter for caps, you can recruit, you can heal people, all sorts of things. And I decided to roll for extra caps, and I got a 8. And at the end of the game, I had 43 plus 5 plus 8, which put me at 56 caps. Oh, so sad. Not the 57 I needed, but that's okay. And yeah, that is the end of the game. It was a win for Bertha's Bonkers versus Circuit Breakers. All right. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you had fun. And let me know if you find this content, entertaining. I love talking about this game, and I hope all of you have a wonderful day. All right. Bye.